My fiancé vanished before our wedding, then I discovered the secret life he was hiding. I, 31F, was supposed to get married last October. We had everything planned, an autumn ceremony at a vineyard in Oregon, soft orange and red leaves, string lights, vows under an old oak tree. I had the dress. He had the ring. My whole life was about to start. And then, he vanished. I don't mean cold feet. I mean he was gone. His phone was dead. His apartment locked. His car left parked outside. One day before our wedding, my fiancé Daniel, 35M, just disappeared. At first, I thought it was a joke. A prank. Maybe something stupid like a bachelor party gone wrong. But hours turned into a full day. Then 2. Then a week. And that's when I started getting calls, not from him, but from another woman. You don't know who he really is. The call came on the 3rd day. I hadn't eaten or slept. My family was in chaos. Vendors were calling about refunds. My mom was hovering over me like I was terminally ill. And then, an unknown number. You don't know me, the voice said. But I need you to listen. You're not the only woman Daniel's been engaged to. Her name was Lauren, and she lived in Sacramento. She had been with Daniel for 4 years, same timeline as me. They had a house together, 2 dogs, shared bank accounts. She found out about me because Daniel left his email open. My wedding invitation was in his inbox. Lauren was calling to warn me. But she was also desperate for answers. Because Daniel had vanished from her life 2 weeks before he disappeared from mine. The puzzle pieces fall. I didn't believe her at first. But she sent photos. Emails. Voicemails. Screenshots of video calls from our engagement night, while he was supposedly on a business trip. He had been living 2 lives. 2 identities. One with me in Portland, an apartment near the university where he claimed to be a guest lecturer. And one in Sacramento, where he was self-employed and worked from home. But the deeper we dug, the more horrifying it became. There were other women. Not just us. Lauren and I created a shared spreadsheet. We began reaching out to names from his social media. Over the course of a month, 6 women confirmed serious relationships with Daniel over the past decade. At least 3 overlapped. One had a child, and wasn't sure if Daniel was the father. He had no job. The teaching was fake. The real Daniel had changed his name years ago, after being investigated for fraud in Arizona. We found a Reddit post from 2017 under another alias where someone complained, "My brother-in-law is a charming sociopath who's ruined 3 lives." It was about him. The confrontation, or what I thought it would be. 2 months after the wedding that never happened, Lauren got a call from a blocked number. She answered and recorded it. It was Daniel. He sounded calm. Cold. Like nothing had happened. "I didn't mean for any of this to go that far," he said. "I just wanted to start over." He refused to say where he was. He hung up before police could trace the call. That was the last time any of us heard his voice. Picking up the pieces. It's been 11 months now. Lauren and I still talk. We're not exactly friends, but trauma bonds you in weird ways. She ended up selling the house. I moved out of Portland and started a remote job. Therapy helps, but not in the ways I expected. I still wake up some nights thinking I see him in the corner of my room. Sometimes I still scroll through our old photos, trying to figure out when exactly the mask slipped. But here's the thing, there was no mask. Daniel didn't hide who he was. He just gave each of us a different version, and we chose to believe what we needed. He was charming, attentive, generous. And when he left, he took not just my future, but my understanding of reality with him. The final twist. 2 weeks ago, I got a letter. No return address. No stamp. Just hand-delivered to my office mailbox. Inside was a photograph, a picture of me on the wedding day, in my dress, standing alone under the oak tree. It was raining. No one else around. I never even knew someone took that photo. On the back, it said, "You looked beautiful. I'm sorry. D." And that's when I knew, he was still watching. Final thoughts. I don't know if Daniel will ever be caught. I don't know how many lives he's broken. But I do know this. Love can make you blind. But betrayal sharpens every sense you've got left. And now, I see everything clearly. I found him, and he had a new fiancé. I don't know if the letter was a warning or a confession. But it did something to me. For months after Daniel vanished, I tried to move on. I blocked every number that wasn't saved in my phone. I changed my address. I deleted old photos. But after that photo, the one of me standing alone in my wedding dress, I realized I couldn't pretend anymore. He was still out there. Watching. Playing his game. And I was done being the one he broke. So I decided to find him. The search begins again. Lauren and I reconnected, not that we ever completely disconnected. She had since joined a few online communities focused on tracking con artists and serial scammers. I joined too, under a pseudonym. We shared Daniel's photo, or what we thought was his real face, in every group we could. No hits for weeks. Then a woman named Cassie, from San Diego, met me. "I think I'm dating this man." He was going by the name Ethan. Same face. Same eyes. Same charming smile. He told her he was a freelance architect, orphaned young, raised in Europe. She'd been with him for 10 months. She was also engaged. The sick pattern. Cassie and I talked for hours. She was smart, kind, and absolutely blindsided. When she confronted him with the photo I sent, he didn't deny it. He just told her I was a crazy ex obsessed with ruining his life. Sound familiar? She wanted to believe him. But something in her broke when she asked him to show her his passport, and he refused. Cassie made a decision that saved us both. She let me come to San Diego. The setup. We coordinated everything. She told him she was planning a surprise engagement dinner at a rooftop bar. Meanwhile, I sat 2 tables away with Lauren, a friend from the subreddit who worked in private investigations, and a phone recording everything. When he walked in, it hit me like a freight train. He looked exactly the same. Not thinner. Not hiding. Just, like nothing had ever happened. As if he'd moved on and rebuilt himself effortlessly. He kissed Cassie's cheek. Laughed. Ordered wine. Then she stood up and said, "There's someone here you should meet." And I turned around. The confrontation. He froze. He didn't run. Didn't speak. Just stared at me like I was something from a nightmare. Cassie stepped aside. I walked up to him slowly and said, "Hi Daniel." Or Ethan. Or whatever you're calling yourself this year. Still nothing. Then Lauren walked up beside me and said, "Remember me?" His expression cracked, only slightly, but enough. A twitch. A flash of panic in his eyes. Then the smugness returned. "This is harassment," he said calmly. "You followed me here. You're unstable." I smiled. "That's okay. I recorded this entire conversation. And guess what? You're not the first one who said that." He stood up. Cassie stepped back. Her hands were shaking. "You lied about everything," she whispered. "You were going to marry me." And then she slapped him. Loud. Hard. Perfect. The aftermath. We didn't expect a legal miracle, not right away. But with Cassie's help and her cooperation, we finally had enough evidence to file a full report. Fraud, identity theft, manipulation, even wire fraud based on overlapping financial transactions. A month later, Daniel was arrested trying to board a flight to Costa Rica under yet another alias. Turns out, there were at least 3 other women involved during his Ethan phase, 2 of whom had lent him money. He's now under investigation across 3 states. Reclaiming myself. I went back to the vineyard last week. Not for a wedding. Just, to walk. To remember who I was before Daniel. Who I could still become. The oak tree is still there. The leaves were turning again, a little red, a little gold. This time, I stood there alone on purpose. I took a photo. Not for him. For me. A new one. Not in a dress. Not waiting. Just me. Final thoughts. I know some people will say I'm lucky. That I escaped before marriage. Before kids. Before real financial ruin. But trauma doesn't measure itself by legal milestones. It lingers. It creeps. It whispers, you weren't enough. But I was. I am. And now, he's the one hiding. The letter from prison. It's been 3 years since Daniel, or Ethan, or whatever name he's abandoned by now, was arrested. I moved. New city. New friends. New last name. No, I didn't get married, just didn't want any digital breadcrumb leading back to the past. Therapy helped. So did time. So did silence. Sometimes, I even go days without thinking about him. Then last month, I got a letter. Handwritten. Stamped from a correctional facility in Nevada. The return name read, Daniel Arithmetics. It sat unopened on my kitchen counter for 2 weeks. I walked past it every day, trying to convince myself it meant nothing. That there was no good reason to reopen a wound I'd spent years stitching shut. But one night, when it was raining, the same kind of gray, October rain we were supposed to be married in, I opened it. The letter. Lila. You probably won't read this. Or maybe you already have. Either way, I won't pretend I expect forgiveness. I'm writing because, well, I'm tired of being a mystery, even to myself. There's a part of this story you don't know. A part no one does. He went on to describe his childhood. His real name was Daniel. His father was a grifter, someone who moved from state to state, scamming employers, insurance, even family. He trained Daniel early, fake names, fake smiles, how to say just enough truth to make the lies sound real. By the time I was 18, I'd already changed names 4 times. I didn't go to college. I didn't have a home. I just kept moving. People were easier to charm than to face myself. He said falling in love with me wasn't fake, but staying with me would have required telling the truth. And that was something he'd never learned how to do. The night before our wedding, I sat in my car for 2 hours watching the lights in your apartment. I knew I'd destroy you if I stayed. So I left. But leaving destroyed you too, didn't it? I'm sorry. Not in the way liars say sorry. But in the way broken people do, quietly, too late. I didn't cry. I thought I would. I thought some part of me would fall apart again. But I didn't cry. I didn't even shake. I just sat there, still, letting the truth settle into my chest like dust on an old shelf. He was broken. But he chose to break others too. He had chances to stop. He didn't. Why he wrote. At the end of the letter, he said he wasn't writing for sympathy. He was writing because the prison had started a restorative justice program, and for the first time, he was being asked to face what he'd done to people. They encouraged him to write letters, not to beg, not to plead, but to own. I'm not asking for anything from you. I just needed to be honest at least once in my life. Even if it's in a cage. Where I am now. I kept the letter. Didn't reply. Don't think I ever will. I live in Seattle now. I work for a nonprofit that supports victims of emotional abuse and financial manipulation. Yeah, I turned my pain into purpose. Not for some revenge arc. But because healing is quieter than people expect. I still don't date much. I'm not afraid of love, just cautious. Love isn't supposed to feel like guessing. And now I know the difference. Final scene. Last week, I visited a bookstore downtown. I bought a notebook, blank, thick pages. When I got home, I wrote this on the first one. I survived a man who wanted to rewrite my story. This one's mine now. Then I started writing the rest. 10 years later, I saw him again. 10 years. That's how long it's been since I opened that letter from prison. Since I read Daniel's crooked apology, then buried it in the back of my filing cabinet, not to forget, but to finally let go. I never replied. Never visited. Never followed up. Last I heard, he was denied parole in 2029. He was moved to a federal correctional facility in Utah and faded from the online world like a ghost that never belonged. And me? I lived. Fully. Fiercely. Where I am now. I'm married now, to someone good. Not perfect. But real. Someone who knows every dark corner I keep inside and still chooses to sit in the silence with me when I need it. We have a daughter. She's 6 and asks too many questions, just like her mom. I'm a therapist now. I work with women who've experienced complex emotional trauma. Survivors of con men, manipulators, and those who fell in love with a mask. My clients often ask me if I've ever been there. I don't tell them the whole story, but I always say. I survived someone who was very good at pretending. Then, out of nowhere, a familiar face. Last month, I traveled to Salt Lake City for a trauma psychology conference. One of the sessions ended early, so I stopped into a coffee shop near the university. I was in line for a latte when someone behind me dropped a tray. I turned out of instinct, and locked eyes with a man wiping coffee off his lap. And my heart stopped. Daniel. Older. Gray at the temples. Thinner. But unmistakably him. The same jaw. The same eyes that once made promises they never planned to keep. And for a moment, one stupid, surreal moment, he smiled. Like nothing had happened. Like we were just two strangers in line. Then I saw it. The bracelet around his ankle, partially hidden by his sock. Parole monitor. He recognized me. His face fell the second he realized who I was. The smile died. He looked down. Then back up. And for a long moment, neither of us said a word. Then he opened his mouth. Lila. I didn't respond. He stepped closer, carefully, slowly, like I was a deer that might bolt. You look happy, he said. And I was shocked to realize, I was. What I said. I looked him in the eye and said quietly. You don't get to be in this chapter of my life. Then I turned and walked out. No screaming. No closure. No long monologue. Because I already had closure. I had it the day I chose not to be angry anymore. The day I stopped needing to know why. What I realized. Seeing him didn't destroy me. It reminded me that healing isn't a line, it's a loop. Sometimes you pass familiar landmarks. Pain. Memory. Fear. But you're walking forward now. Not trapped. He was still him. But I was no longer the woman who stood under an oak tree, waiting for someone who never planned to arrive. Final note. When I got back to the hotel, I opened my laptop and pulled up my old Daniel file for the first time in years. I read the letter one last time. Then I deleted it. Emptied the trash. And went to sleep in a clean, quiet room, with no ghosts. Only my name. My life. My truth.